The following is a conversation with Jesse Morris, a music law attorney, an entrepreneur, and musician. Jesse talks about famous copyright infringement cases, legal issues artists need to consider for their business, and how he helps musicians be less worried so they can be more creative. Afterwards, we'll have an aftershow. For those just tuning in to Pepe and Ybra for the first time, I'm Pepe, aka Joanna Glass, and Ybra, aka A. Perez, is my bandmate, and we are professional musicians in a two-piece rock band called GLASSPIRITS. This podcast will have guests who are musicians or professionals in the music and entertainment business. They'll have music tips, discuss issues in the music industry, and their creative process. The current schedule will be to publish each episode every week. We have all the episodes filmed already and in the can, so you'll definitely get an episode every week coming to you. If we get a positive response, we'll have a second season, so make sure you like, comment, rate, and review this podcast. The theme of this season is Voyager, because many of our guests have come from all around the world, and some are transplants from across the country. But the voyage doesn't have to be physical. It can also be a mental, emotional, and spiritual voyage as well. If you enjoy this podcast, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, give it 5 stars, and leave a good review on Apple Podcast. Support us on Patreon, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or our website, pepeandybra.com. Now, without further ado, here's our conversation with Jesse Morris. Welcome to another episode of the Pepe and Ybra podcast. I'm Pepe, aka Joanna Glass from the two-piece rock band GLASSPIRITS. Today I have with me a very special guest, a very special person. He's very brilliant, and he is always thinking big. He's a perfectionist, and he's an entrepreneur and a true professional. He is personable, trustworthy, and kind. He's an entertainment lawyer, and his name is Jesse Morris. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, thank you so much for the kind words. That means a lot.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Busy day. It's actually Grammy week this week.
Ooh.
Although this episode will come out later, but it's always fun in the music industry when everyone comes together and does our Grammy thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to hop on. And I guess to contextualize, how we met and let our audience know, I probably met you maybe 9 or 10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, we go way back. Yeah.
I just started a music production studio about 9 years ago, and I sought Jesse's help. And, I stopped producing years ago, but since then I occasionally reach out to Jesse for help here and there. And what stuck with me is that I love the fact that Jesse is a musician, and I'm gonna stop referring to you in the third person, but that you're a lawyer who has musicians in mind. And in the beginning, you just said, let's grow together, let's keep working together. And that kind of assured me this would be a long-term working relationship. Loyalty is very important to me. And so, that was a huge selling point. And, a client has the privilege to kind of shop around, but I'm just curious, is there an ideal mindset to, I guess, the type of client or musician to work with that's easy to work with?
Oh, yeah, great question, Joanna. We go way back, and I love to just be on the team with my clients, and like you said, be there for the long haul, and just be an important part of, a musician or a producer, songwriter, label, publisher, be on the team as their lawyer, so that they can focus on the music and what they do best, and know that they're being protected on the legal side. That's where I fit into the whole puzzle. Let me just take a step back and we can jump back into that question of what's an ideal client for me, kind of to paraphrase the question. First of all, I like to call myself a music lawyer, not an entertainment lawyer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took that
out. No, it's great. It's a good part of the conversation because it's such a niche field to what I do in music law.
Okay.
So it's kind of part of entertainment law. There's movies, there's film, movies, there's TV, excuse me. There's, books, stage shows. So music is a subset of entertainment.
Okay.
And, I oftentimes get clients from film attorneys or other entertainment lawyers because music is so specialized. And I love it though, because as you said, I'm a musician and I like to call myself a copyright dork as well. I love staying on top of, copyright developments, laws, different changes in the industry. Again, always to help my clients in the music space. I do work in other areas of the entertainment field, like film and TV, but really focus on music. That's my love and passion. So it's really great to be able to combine that passion with the work and being able to help along the way. Quick disclaimer, this podcast is great. I hope we're entertaining and fun and get value out of this, whoever's listening. It should not be taken as legal advice or services though. An actual written agreement, retainer agreement's required for that. And if anyone is interested in working together, we do a free initial consult just to see what's going on, make sure it's the right fit, discuss kind of how billing works and budgets and things like that. So you can always reach out to me, usually email's best. And you can find me at morrismusiclaw.com and also musiclawpro.com. It's a companion service that was recently launched. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But back to your question, what's an ideal client? It usually comes down to a very simple question, Joanna, is music a hobby or a pro? Are you a professional or are you a hobby musician? If it's a hobby, you don't need a lawyer. Have fun, make music. It's great. We all love music. Have fun with it. Save your money on a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer if it's a hobby. If it's a profession for you, if it's a career, you need a lawyer on your team, a music lawyer. It's just there's contracts, stuff comes up, and unfortunately, not everybody is honest, honorable, or nice, for lack of a better word. And unfortunately, the laws are not super simple. So I come in to help, to protect against those people that may be trying to take advantage of you and to help, understand what's happening so we can make better decisions to help the music, help my clients' careers. So, clients that are professionals, they need a music lawyer on their team. Whether they have management or agent or other aspects of their team depends on, their situation. But ultimately, if you're a professional, there's going to be paperwork, there's going to be rights involved, you need a music lawyer on your team. And hopefully someone you can trust that works with you, that's transparent. And like we talked about at the top, is in it to build a relationship to help, along the way, no matter if you're starting out or if you're a superstar or anywhere in between, and build and grow and have that level of trust and, legal service to ensure that, the client can focus on what they do best, which is the music and other aspects of their career, and have a lawyer on their team to protect them and look out for them and really help, have that synergistic effect to ultimately help the music in the end of the day, which is why we all do this. So long-winded answer to that question, but hopefully it's helpful and fun along the way.
Yeah,
and look at us. We got going a long time ago, and then stuff comes, and there's not always something that comes up. Sometimes there's a period of time of recording, and then you don't really need legal yet, and then all right, we're getting ready for release. Okay, let's connect back to legal and do contracts and get ready for registrations, etc. So it's good. It's a really fortunate position I have to be able to be in the music industry while also, having a specialized skill set that helps kind of in the back end that most people don't see, but it's an important aspect of the whole music business side of things. And yeah, I really enjoy what I've been doing. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Woo!
Oh, wow.
Still at it, still loving it. And yeah, I love doing things like this to kind of help out and share some wisdom, if at all possible, to help out others.
Yeah, this kind of helped me recall something funny you said when you were talking about the scope of your practice, and then you joked like, hey, if you end up in jail, I might not be the best person to call, and we were just cracking up and laughing, but I mean, you say that you work within music law, but if an artist, anyone who's listening, gets dropped from their label for maybe a misconduct for a distasteful tweet, or an accident occurs on a music video shoot, is that within the scope of your practice, or is that something else?
Yeah, great question. I usually act as general counsel to my clients. So a good analogy is like a company like Pepsi or Microsoft. They're going to have a general counsel who kind of delegates as needed depending upon the legal need. And so that's kind of my role. I work within the entertainment space, but if a client has a tax question or something, we bring in the CPA or the accountant or the business manager. If a client had an issue with a stalker or something, maybe we bring in the police or someone who specialized in cease and desist in that specific type of area. If someone has to go to court in New York or something and we need a litigator there, then my job is to always use my network and my colleagues to connect the dots for my clients.
Nice.
So that they're getting a competent service for whatever need they have. So it's always a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
There's some stuff, like you said, if you get arrested for doing something illegal and you're in jail, you gotta get a defense attorney, a criminal defense attorney. That's not my area of law.
Yeah.
If your label drops you, yeah, that's in my wheelhouse, dealing with labels and whatnot.
Okay.
So I have conversations with clients all the time, and as an attorney, there's a lot of ethical obligations that attach once I am someone's attorney, and there's an attorney-client relationship. Some of those include confidentiality, like you tell your lawyer something, your lawyer can't tell anybody else. It's really important to have a safe space to know that you can talk to your lawyer and it's not going to go anywhere else. Kind of like a therapist, I guess. Or loyalty. Like, I'm loyal to my clients. It's really important that if shit hits the fan, you know who's on your team, because that is not the time to figure out who's on your team. You need to know going into battle who is on your team and who isn't. So, and another ethical obligation, back to the question, is competency. Like, you gotta be a competent lawyer and know what you're doing. And I do music law all the time, so I'm competent in music law, copyright, contract sort of issues. If it's outside my competency zone, I could learn it, or I use a colleague who does it all the time. And we make sure that no matter what the issue is, my clients are covered. And I like to say it's kind of like one-stop shop. Like, you got your lawyer on your team, and whatever comes up, I either deal with it directly or I, help connect those dots to help find the right person for the issue at hand. And it's a lot of things come up and there's questions, and we just have that relationship. Music business is very relationship based. So you want to have a good relationship with your lawyer, have that honesty, have that trust level, and so that you can focus on your music or the business side of music that you're in, whether you're an executive or a label or an actual artist or producer.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just to kind of touch upon like the disruptive technologies that are constantly coming out. Without naming any artists, of course, there have been some famous musicians out there who have been sued, for different reasons, but like one would be like copyright infringement and just their songs, their current songs, just sounding really similar to songs other artists have written. And so the conversations I'm hearing with my music colleagues are just like, oh, it's so easy, just write a song and you don't have to worry about it and just be original and prevent yourself from, like being sued. And there's also a part of me that like believes that people should have access to expression, and there's this technology that's out there that makes it so easy to write a song, that they come up with formulas and apps, and where you don't have to take music theory and you don't have to look at music history. And but I also feel like that might promote some type of homogeneity. And so I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, on how to keep your own music unique, and maybe even know that your song sounded similar to something that you've never heard of before.
Great question. Yeah, this came up a lot since like the Blurred Lines case.
Uh-huh.
A while ago, that was in the news, and then you had Led Zeppelin and you had Katy Perry. So there's a history here, and it's different because if it's just lyrics, it's like, all right, did I use the same lyrics or not? And it gets tricky if it's a short phrase or something. If it's too short, it may not be copyrightable. But when it comes to music, it's like exactly the same. Okay, and but when there's differences, there's only so many notes you can use. There's only so many chords. Mm-hmm. So it's not an easy, like, bright line. All right, this is 8 bars I can use, or 8 notes, or 2 seconds. Like it depends on every kind of situation. And ultimately there's a balance that happens of creativity on the one side and protecting creators on the other. Like, we want to encourage free expression, mm-hmm. more music, more creative arts, but we also want to encourage the creation of that to protect the creators so that they're not, being stolen from their original works. So there's a balance that happens, and it's helpful to look at both sides of that scale, to use the metaphor. It's like, what if I wrote a big hit and then somebody else, copied it or not? Like, would I care or not? And it's nice to look in their shoes. Like, you can get more full-fledged and hire a musicologist to analyze things. You can do easier things like Shazamming it to see if that catches anything of a pre-existing material. Different labels, different companies have different methods or technological tools to help in this regard. And ultimately, if there's a big hit, people come out of the woodworks and try to see what's up. And ultimately, for copyright infringement, hence the name, there has to be a copying. But that copying could be intentional or it could be unintentional. So if you have a big hit and it's just, you don't even know, and then you're writing a song and it ends up being the same melody or too similar, that could be an unintentional copying because you still heard it and you're copying the other side. Whereas if you independently create something, even if it's the same as somebody else, you're fine. Like that's in general okay in this discussion of like whether a song would be infringing or not. But to show independent creation or to show copying, these are details that have to get sorted out in the context of any particular song. And as a creator, on the other side of the table, I'll write a song and like usually the first thing is like, did I copy somebody? Man, this is a great song. It must be somebody else. Oh. You kind of listen and you hope it's independent. It's like, wow, that's good. Nobody else has done that, or geez, maybe it is too similar to that one. And then if you get that gut feeling, or if somebody listens, or some of these tools runs it by and it is too close, that's a good time to talk to a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And get some certainty there, as opposed to waiting to see if the potentially infringing work is going to come after you, try to sue you or whatnot. It's important to keep the creativity. We still got to create music and not be stifled in that creativity. Yeah. And not be afraid that you're gonna like be sued for copyright infringement. But on the other hand, we want to again respect copyright owners and their works. And there's a lot that goes into this to make sure that we're balancing again. The competing interests. And when it comes to a jury trial, all bets are off. That like the Blurred Lines case, versus the Led Zeppelin case, for example, like just looking at the defendants and how they acted in court, the jury is going to view them very differently, just based on that testimony, regardless of the facts and the actual similarities of the music or not. I get potential clients reach out to me all the time. Somebody stole my song or infringed it, or the other way around, and we check it out. Send the comparing music, and we will look at it. My staff are all musicians too.
Nice.
And we work with musicologists, the top in the business. So if it gets to a certain point, then we bring in those experts or negotiate with the other side, and it's fascinating work.
Yeah.
There's it's really, what I don't like is like this uncertainty getting in the way of the creativity. Like we want the music, we want more music, we want to be able to create without worry of just being taken down for copyright infringement. So that, if there are those concerns, it's a good time to bring in a lawyer if you're going to be really serious about, your release. Or if somebody's, if you feel like somebody has infringed your music, it's a good idea to bring in a music lawyer to help understand, your rights and different options moving forward. And sometimes you do a license and you share ownership. Other times you take things down, and other times there's court. If we can't sort it out, that's kind of our last resort of peaceful resolution, is to go to court and work it out there. So it's a fascinating area that we could talk about much, much more. It's usually helpful to look at in specific context of particular songs, comparing them, and looking at the music and seeing was enough copyrightable elements copied or not. And oftentimes we can't actually show direct copying. There's not an email that's like, I copied this. It's great if you had that, if you're on one side, but usually it's like you have to actually compare the music. And there's subjective and there's objective tests involved, and it depends on where you are in the country too. There's different tests based on different circuits. They're roughly the same though. And something else that we're usually looking for, if I were to take up a case of copyright infringement like this, is some showing of access. That the other side actually have access to the music. So for example, if it's a big hit, you can kind of show access because it's kind of heard that you heard the hit on the radio or Spotify or somewhere. If it's a smaller song and you can't show that it was actually heard or likely heard, then showing that the files were shared or there's some relationship or some connection can help show that there's access to be able to show the copying. It gets more involved, and again, this is all just kind of general tidbit and not legal advice, but it's important to kind of, for the viewers or listeners, they're like, oh, I got a copyright infringement case, kind of general stuff. So if they reached out to my firm and I didn't get back to them, or there was no case, like just a little bit of why that may be the case to help kind of illuminate the situation more.
Yeah, thanks. And speaking of your firm, I see that you have two different websites, morrismusiclaw.com and musiclawpro.com. Would you mind telling our audience the difference between the two and what services you provide?
Totally. They're both law firms. They're both music law firms. I originally started Morris Music Law, hence the name. That's my last name, clearly. That provides what we're talking about, just, one-stop shop, anything legal you need. The billing is the big difference between the two. Typically, lawyers bill hourly based on different rates and by 1/10 of an hour increments. And I found through the years that a lot of clients or potential clients were a bit hesitant about hourly. It's like, well, how much is it going to cost? I want a producer deal. Or you need to negotiate this, like, what's the cost? I'm like, well, it depends. It could be an hour, it could be 4 hours. Like, here's why it depends. We're going to work together along the way to ensure that we're working within budget. And I still found that some clients are like, well, I'd rather just pay an amount, know what it's going to cost. So I set up Music Law Pro to have fixed rates, to just, here's fixed rates for some basic, very common sorts of issues like a copyright registration, a trademark registration, producer contracts, things like that. And then the other thing I found with the hourly was a lot of times clients could be hesitant to reach out to have a question or concern because they're afraid of getting billed. It's like, especially a starving musician type of client who I work with a lot. They're on a tight budget. They have an important question, but they may bypass legal and make a mistake, or even do it right but have uncertainty and doubt about it because they're afraid to ask the question because they could get billed. So we set up a subscription option. So for a certain amount a month with Music Law Pro, you have a lawyer on your team, and you don't have to worry about being on the clock for questions. So you can schedule a call or a video call and basically have unlimited time with a lawyer about general questions. And if a specific task comes up, then it's all fixed rates. And as a bonus for being on the subscription, you get a discount on the fixed rate stuff as an extra. And you get extra little bonuses to justify the monthly cost. Because even if you're not using it in a month, you still have to pay the subscription because your lawyer is still available for you that month. And some months you need more work and other months you don't. So it's a different offering just to have more access to music lawyer legal services. Depending upon wherever your situation is as a music professional. This way there's different options on the table, and hopefully, one makes sense for your situation. So that's kind of the main difference. Another big difference is I'm not directly the lawyer for Music Law Pro. I created it, I'm the founder, I supervise, I mentor. I'm there to chime in as needed, but my staff, my associates and paralegals and clerks are directly involved with the clients via there. I'm directly involved through Morris Music Law, and at this stage in my career, I tend to be a little bit more selective about who I work with. Which is another reason I brought on and trained staff so that we can again have greater access to justice and music lawyers at lower rates and different vibes, different personalities, so that whoever you are as a music professional, we could try to find, the right fit. And, so that you can focus on your music again and have the lawyer on your team. So it's fun. It's a good journey. As you said on the top of this, I'm a constant entrepreneur. I launched a music tech business called Tune Registry a few years ago and exited that. It dealt with metadata, registrations and management. That was an amazing experience. So Music Law Pro is another entrepreneurial venture. Ultimately, the aim is to help music professionals have a music lawyer on their team and get the work done so that their rights, their royalties are protected and they can focus on their music and have the lawyer on their team.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I love how you just talked about providing access to services and making them more affordable and manageable for the, starving artists. And now I'm not big on belief barriers about creative people only being right-brained and the analytical mind being left-brained, but there's something to that I found that a lot of artists have a hard time articulating their art. I mentioned earlier with other guests in other episodes that I prefer to do side jobs that aren't music producing related. I just got so burned out with my studio business. I got all cynical because when I was on the other side of that table that you mentioned and offering services to the artists, it was It was a pain in the butt. I mean, because I was dealing with people who were not cooperative, not willing to do the work, and just really unorganized and changed the goalposts a lot. And to be fair, there were some really great artists I did work with, but this isn't to put artists down because I struggle with these too. I just found it as an artist stressful for me to keep quantifying my creative efforts. Because I do value my time and energy. Now that I'm back on the other side of that table, I can imagine that many artists, including myself, just have highly compartmental minds, they can be like so brilliant in music, but they lack organization, and that sets them up to be kind of vulnerable in business. So if they can't even write their own bio, I can just imagine they're going to be struggling to read and understand a contract. So now this kind of artist archetype walks into your office. How do you help them, or at least help themselves to cultivate that better mindset?
Oh, great question. I love artists. I got into this whole business because my friends are musicians, and they're like, "Oh, you went to law school, huh? You're a lawyer. Help with our contracts and our copyrights." So I grew up with artists. I'm really good friends with artists. I get the artist mentality, and that's why I'm able to help. And regardless of, some artists are more organized, for lack of a better word, than others. And regardless, if you're an artist, that should be the focus. It's the emotional connection of the art to your fans, etc. And you can build a team around you. And I like to use a metaphor of and kind of you mentioned of having this little bit stress or weight on one's shoulders of the business side of the music industry. And I like to kind of take that weight off my client's shoulders, and I can deal with it. We gotcha. Here's a contract or this registration or some issue with song splits or whatever it is. I take that weight off and we take care of it so that the client can be lighter and be able to focus more on what they're good at. And everybody's got, an artist may not be good at writing a bio or being on time, but maybe they're amazing at singing, or maybe they write the best songs ever. And they should be fostered and encouraged in that, and not be prohibited by what they're not good at. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do the law side and be able to take that weight off the client's shoulders, and work together on that. And as a lawyer, I have to be able to speak kind of differently depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to a judge, Your Honor, I'm going to wear a tie. It's going to be more formal. If I'm talking to a lawyer, I can use certain lingo and verbiage that the lawyer's going to get, certain tonality, certain pace of what's happening. If I'm talking to an artist, then I'm going to adjust that and use, depending upon the artist and their sophistication and where they are in the industry and our relationship, I'm going to reflect how I communicate so that it's clear to that artist. Yeah. Whether they know nothing or whether they know everything. And there's different ways of communicating that, so that it gets expressed clearly and we get the job done. And the artist feels good about what's happening, and ultimately the music gets rocking and getting done right. So that's a huge aspect of what I do as a music lawyer, is being able to communicate differently based on who I'm talking to.
Well, artists should be doing what you're doing, which is, adapting the technology, being searchable, and figuring out how people can find you, and that involves, figuring out those search terms, and the SEO, the algorithm is so big nowadays, and unless you only want to play music in your basement, so to speak, and no judgment there, but to get out of this proverbial basement, you have to know how to commodify your art, and actually on a business standpoint, I think creating Music Law Pro is just the terms itself, just so searchable and so brilliant, because
a lot of music lawyers don't want to be found. It's hard, and I get it. I don't want to be found sometimes. Yeah, you want, because there's just a lot of people that want a record deal. They want something from you. They're not a pro yet. Like we talked about before, it's a hobby. So a lot of times, clients come through referrals, through my clients or people in my network that know me, and there's a certain connection that happens there. However, more and more people are making music, putting out music on their own, doing their own label, doing their own thing. And they may not know how to get access to a music lawyer or know somebody who knows a music lawyer. So that's one reason why I am available to search, to find me. I like to be responsive and available should people reach out. And once I am somebody's attorney, being responsive is super important. Music's 24/7, and you got to make sure your lawyer's on speed dial, so to speak, get things done when they need to get done. So it's and the music industry is constantly changing. The barriers, the gatekeepers are changing. You can go on and on about how you used to need to have a record label to record, to get into a studio. You don't need that anymore. Anybody can record. You used to need a label to put your music out, to make CDs, press CDs, put them into the stores. You don't need, who does that anymore? Anybody can put their music up for everybody to access. There's a huge advantage of what labels do, and there's still gatekeepers, and there's important roles in the industry. But there's more people doing it on their own. There's more power happening, putting back into the artist, back into the independent musician. And there's going to be more and more need for legal on those teams. And how do people find, what they need these days? You go on to Google, you go on to Yelp, you talk around, talk to your friends. So I want to ensure that whoever you are, if you're a music professional, there's at least an option. Here's a music lawyer. I don't have to know somebody to even talk to this music lawyer. At least there's accessibility to anybody. And then, then it's my job to kind of screen through who's actually has a legal need that we can help. And my staff helps with the screening. And it's just really important to have that mutual respect so that if we actually take on a client, it's going to be helpful and provide value to that client, whatever their situation is.
I think what you just said was great. I mean, I just love this recurring theme that you have of just making sure you provide access to more people, and people and artists who might be just intimidated to get a lawyer, So I guess maybe like an older model would be, like to hire a lawyer, pay $1,000, but then whatever kind of deal that you're concerned about is maybe only a subjective, like $10,000. And then so people can just kind of rationalize then it's not worth it getting a lawyer. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about those kind of rationalizations.
Totally, yeah. It's great when you're being offered $1 million. It's like, awesome. I got some legal budget in there.
Yeah.
On the flip side, like you're paying out of pocket for the contributors, whether producer or PR or whatever, and you're paying out, and you got to pay more out of pocket for legal. Or in the middle, it's like, yeah, you're getting $10,000 from a deal, and then, hey, how am I going to justify paying a lawyer $1,000, $2,000, or whatever it is from that deal? Those are all super legitimate concerns, and what we do is offer a free initial consult.
Yeah.
So there's no cost. So there's no barrier of like, oh my God, I can't even first find the lawyer, and then second, at least approach the music law firm without any cost. And then we see what's up. And then we're very flexible, depending on the situation, to adjust pricing, budget. We have a bunch of different options so that if there's a real need, like we make it happen. We figure out a way to get the legal within the right budget so that the client's getting most of the money, or the money's going back into the music, and legal is part of that. So a big word I like to use that people throw around all the time is transparency. Really important to be between attorney and client to have a transparent relationship. And in this conversation and this topic about budget. So from my end, I'll be like, here's the cost. Here's what we're looking at for our estimated time or budget. And then on the client side, they're like, here's where I'm at with my budget. Here's my concerns. And then we figure it out. And conversations like that, like, we don't build with clients. Like, we're just going to work together. Again, having that relationship, that long-term relationship with your lawyer to, oh my gosh, I have a concern. I'm only getting $5,000 on this deal, and I don't want to pay $2,500 for a lawyer or something. Like, we talk it out and figure out a way to make it happen. And I've done all sorts of creative, flexible ways that make sense for everybody. So that, I'm getting paid, clients getting the legal they need within their budget. It's making sense for their flow, their business, and we get the job done. As opposed to on the flip side, it's like, well, I need to save on legal here. Let me do this deal. I'll get the whole $10,000 myself. And then 6 months later, it falls apart. And then you really can't deal with it on your own. And then you hit my desk, call me up. It's going to be a lot more expensive. It's going to take a lot more stress and time generally, just like to deal with the mess, as opposed to if you knock it out up front and then something happens, it's like, boom, clause 2C, we gotcha. We nailed it. We're good to go.
Yeah.
This is how we roll, like way quicker and less money on legal and less like burden and hold up on the career and on the music. And being in the studio, like, you don't want these weights on your shoulders as an artist. You want to be able to express yourself and not have that hesitancy, have that authenticity behind the mic or on your instrument or behind the mixing board or wherever you are in the process of music creation. We don't want these contractual or other issues getting in the way of that creation, because what's the point otherwise if we don't love the music? So it's really important to ensure that you're being covered and protected in these regards. And another thing on this point is sometimes there's an additional kind of investment or educational cost that's kind of a distinct way of looking at it as opposed to just pure transactional. The pure transactional is like, it's a $10,000 deal. Lawyer costs $2,000, so I get $8,000 out of it. But there's also like, okay, I'm investing to protect myself.
Yeah.
So if something happens, it's going to be better to invest this $2,000 now than have to pay $10,000, $20,000 or more later if it goes to court if you didn't do it right up front, right? Now we have the other end where it got messed up and you didn't have the lawyer at least look at the contract or help you draft it and make sure you're covered. And then it ends up being way more costly down the road. So this is a little investment on the front end to help kind of protect on the back end. And we have a discussion to make sure that it's going to make sense for a client. Some clients may care about that and other clients may not. And we'll address it based on that situation. And another aspect is sometimes educational. Sometimes it's worth it to talk to your lawyer or ask questions on email to learn, so that you have knowledge to ask the right questions and say the right things to other people. And maybe that's an out-of-pocket cost for you, for your lawyer, but you're gaining this valuable knowledge that cannot be gained really otherwise, other than by doing things. You can read books all day about the music industry. You can attend events, but at the end of the day, experience is a great teacher. And the music industry has a ton of customs and nuances, and people bullshit all the time and say they know something, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not. So having a lawyer on your team kind of helps cut through all that.
Yeah.
So what's really going on? Do I need to search all day and try to figure out, I think I know what a mechanical license is now, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe this site was right, maybe it wasn't. So having the lawyer on your team kind of help alleviate those kind of educational concerns so that you have that knowledge. And best clients kind of understand what's happening and they want to learn.
You did mention something really neat. You kind of mentioned it throughout this episode, that trust and having those relationships. And I guess for those who are in a band, like, having the trust that's really good within your own house I believe needs to be pretty good as well. I'll kind of give like this short anecdote. About 11-ish years ago, I worked at a law office very briefly. And, I won't disclose anything. It's a different area of law. But I was finding out, like in general, that there was just like some disputes that were just kind of based on just people getting back at each other. And I've noticed, like from examining some famous artists in the past, like that could have been like the case. Like this songwriter blocking access for this other co-songwriter from like, distributing some music. I'm being very vague right now, but I hope that makes sense. So now, music law and protection aside, it seems like, you're in the business of dealing with people's grievances, insecurities, and fears sometimes. I mean, do you think that people can save a lot of legal disputes and heartache if they can just also focus on really getting along with their bandmates?
Getting along is nice. That would be great. But it's people have different personalities, and eventually, there are personality disputes. But if there's an issue or something, then like client, we talk about it. We figure it out. Where other people may see a problem, I see solutions, and you take it and we figure it out, and we work through the issue and try to resolve it, in the best way possible for that situation. If a band has if there's concerns, you do a band agreement. It's nice. It's kind of like a prenup. Oh, band's getting along good right now. Let's do an agreement for what happens if we don't get along. And then the band doesn't get along, and we have the agreement. And if you didn't do the agreement, it's a dispute at that point. And yeah, people will say that we'll go into a lawsuit or something out of principle, and you're gonna fight and litigate, and maybe all they want is a sorry, like apology, I'm sorry, and that's it. And what happens in that is like both sides lose and the lawyers win. The lawyers get paid and both sides end up losing, because no matter what happens, they're losing. And what I do is to create a win-win situation. I try to craft contracts, do deals where both sides win. It's a small industry in the end of the day, and you can take advantage or burn somebody one time, but you'll see them again. And like, why do that? It's about creating a mutually beneficial arrangement. And of course, there's leverage and different, circumstances where one side may get a better deal this time or not another time. But as a music attorney that does transactional work, I love to kind of sort out the differences and get a good contract, a good deal, a good advice, so that the parties don't have to fight. They can get along and work together. Music is a very collaborative art form. You have the Mozarts that can make their own symphonies, but he still needs an orchestra to play it. You can't do it on your own. You can have a producer that makes all their own electronic music, but you still need bands to listen to it, or a top liner to sing. It's a very collaborative art form. So we want to ensure that we're working together and everybody's, interests and rights are coinciding. And ultimately, if people can't get along, we have disputes, and we hope to avoid those if we can, if at all possible. It's like, and a good contract really helps. So a lot of what I do is kind of contractual based to ensure that, these concerns get addressed in the contract, and hopefully we, as lawyers, draft clauses that cover most of the issues that come up. And you can get crazy contracts, like 100-page deals, big record deals that are kind of history lessons, like all the different labels that get burned, and then, let's fix the contract and keep fixing it every time they get burned, or think of some hypothetical situation where we could get burned. And that's part of a job as a lawyer, and working with clients, and what could go wrong. What could go right? Amazing, but what could go wrong, and try to anticipate that and address how would that be solved if that were to happen, kind of upfront in the paperwork, as well as memorializing who gets money and how do the rates work, et cetera.
Okay, thank you so much. That's great to hear. And well, I also wanted to mention that the theme of this season of our first season of having this podcast, the theme is Voyager, and because we've just found that a lot of our guests were immigrants or transplants from the other part of the country, and not all voyages are physical. Sometimes they're, emotional, spiritual, or whatnot. And since you've been in the business for so long, 10 years, I would, how would you describe your voyage as an artist at heart and music attorney?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joanna. Very broad and tough to answer.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's good. Good. I love the good questions and the tough ones. Yeah, this is a voyage for the love of music. I would say at the most simplest level, and able to ultimately fall back upon the love and the passion and the devotion to music, and how important it is to me as a person, for my own, personal reasons, as well as our society and everything in between. And, wherever my role is, whether I'm, creating my own music or for purposes here, being the lawyer for creators and music professionals, to just have a bedrock of on this voyage, on this journey, there's going to be ups and downs. We got a huge deal, or we're in the Super Bowl commercial, or whatever it is, like whatever you're at Coachella, whatever your milestone is, like those are victories. We're gonna savor those. We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna enjoy that, but they're not gonna last forever. There's gonna be downfalls. There's gonna be a dispute. There's gonna be conflicts, and we're not gonna let that keep us down either. We're gonna know that we're gonna bounce back up, and we know that ultimately we have music and our love for the power and the potential and the joy and the love of music to guide us on this voyage as a bedrock principle, so that if we're on a high, if we're on a low, it's all going to be good, and we're going to try to enjoy this voyage no matter where we are on it. If we're right at the beginning, if we're getting close to takeoff, if we're in the solar system already, wherever we are, we're going to try to enjoy it. And 10 years is not a long time. A lot of lawyers have more experience, a lot have less. And I find at a core level to enjoy that journey and to appreciate that journey, be grateful for the ability to just have a part in music, helps no matter what is happening. It's to know that we're on our voyage, on our journey, and that helps bind and have that collaborative and team effort. No matter who we're working with, no matter what's happening, whether it's a great producer deal or a dispute with a label, if we can all agree upon core principles, it helps us work through what we don't agree upon. Mm-hmm. And just understanding where others are coming from and where they are on their voyage. We all have our own unique journeys in this life, to use that phrase here, and to have that mutual respect and to be able to hear and listen to others and hear where they are coming from, whether it's my clients or an opposing counsel or opposing sides, and be able to get to core understandings where we actually agree on most things. We really mostly agree on things, and to not let the differences get in the way of that, to use the differences as an opportunity to learn about the other side and why there's a difference, and then ideally, come to a middle ground or a win-win situation, to use that term again, so that we can get back to doing the music and enjoying life and enjoying this voyage, to wrap up this long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's amazing. I was hypnotized, and yeah, I mean, you just talk about getting to the heart of the matter of things, and I just see themes of just people having and just having good intentions and trustworthiness and loyalty, and and then also the idea of providing access so artists can be free to express themselves. I usually, I ask this to my music educator guests and musicians, but now I kind of have a different perspective. So I'm going to ask you, Jesse, are you a healer?
Am I a healer?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give a lawyer response. It depends on how you define what healer is. I'm not a doctor. I would say like a true healer should be like a doctor.
Yeah.
In that sense of the word. How do you, Joanna? And how are some insights you gained from asking that question? What is your interpretation in terms of that question? Like, what do you mean by healer?
Well, I recently asked this with a music educator, and she has gone and persevered through so much politics, and whether it's dealing with administration or getting her instruments funded, but she always was so persevering in just making sure her students had access so that they can express themselves, and because many of her students can be from communities that might have maybe some personal problems and stressful problems, and so music is a healing modality in that sense, and so and that was her prerogative to like provide that access, so her students were in a sense healing, but she never thought about that, and I kind of asked her, and she was a little taken aback, but yeah, she wants to try to be a healer. And so I guess from what I'm just sensing from you, you want to give people access and the freedom to create, I think is just really nice. But
well, I think music is very healing.
Yeah.
As an art. So if I do my job, then my clients are making better music, so to speak, which can then like heal people more. Another aspect of my work, you can refer to me as an attorney or a counselor at law. So sometimes clients may have certain issues, like a label client and their artist has some's come up, for lack of a better word, and it's a weight on my client's shoulders, and maybe we're not talking about drafting the recording agreement; they're already signed, but maybe in this conversation we're the client's able to have that safe space, the confidential space to talk about what's happening. And then I'm able to, from my perspective of the music industry, kind of help take that weight off the client's shoulders.
Yeah.
So that it's like, some clients will be like, man, you're kind of like a therapist. I'm a lawyer, but we're called counselors sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put you on the couch and do that whole thing, but it's kind of a part of the being general counsel, and especially with music that can be very emotional. It's a language of emotions in a sense.
Yeah.
So when you're in the music business, emotions could run high, and I'm very fortunate to be able to handle any situation like that without getting stressed out.
Yeah.
I'm a very calm guy.
I know.
I grew up by the beach in Santa Monica. So I'm very fortunate to like keep that energy. My office is by the beach in Marina del Rey, Venice.
Yeah.
And it's important for me to be able to take whatever's happening for my clients and help them in a sense that could be healing, I guess. But it's, sometimes it's a matter of perspective on what's happening. And if I could heal my clients, amazing. Ultimately, I'm trying to be helpful, and like we've said before, trying to ultimately give back to the music. Help the music happen from wherever angle it's coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that, wonderful note, where can people continue other than your two websites? And I'll definitely put a link in the description and maybe have some lower thirds graphics on your websites. But where can people follow your Voyage? You have an Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
A little bit. I'm not too active, to be honest. I have a little Twitter, a little LinkedIn. And I have my own Voyage. I'm not too into my own social media, so to speak. I guess you could follow me on Twitter or Facebook page, but to me, I prefer the personal relationship, and social media is just a daily aspect of my work with my clients. I'm there, I help advise and deal with all sorts of issues, all sorts of social media. And as an artist, you gotta get your followers. Here's my Instagram, follow me here. Or maybe it's on Clubhouse now or wherever you are.
Yeah.
I'm not too into that. Email me, text me, find the website, reach out. Again, want to make sure we're here to help. There's a true legal need. We're able to help. But yeah, probably the only guest that's like, I don't even care.
No, that's fine. We want diverse answers, and that's pretty cool. I mean, if I wasn't in a band, I wouldn't be doing social media. But I know it can be a necessity. So I
and
get
it's
it.
Nice. There's a community. There's things we learn and get updated on. And, there's a huge benefit of social media. That's really valuable for the music space. And there's a lot of innovative technologies and new sites and different ways of connecting with fans and as a musician, as a label, etc. And it's important to have that balance within the music industry of like, when are we on social media, when are we not on social media, and things like that. I'll post kind of updates or here or there, kind of major milestone type of copyright legislation or court cases or things like that. Music Law Pro does have an Instagram.
Okay, there you go.
So I guess you could, if you're trying to like really follow something, I guess you could follow the Music Law Pro Instagram.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you've done such a great job answering all my questions. Unless there's something else you would like to tell our audience.
Yeah, I like to do a little friendly tips of the trade.
Okay.
I guess while we're here, it's always nice to have some takeaway from these sorts of conversations, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's entertaining and the voyage of this podcast was fun for whoever's watching and whoever's listening. Our time is valuable, so if you spent the time actually watching this or listening to this, thank you. Reach out to Morris Music Law and Music Law Pro. But in terms of just general tips, I have a couple kind of friendly tips I like to share.
Okay.
In conversations like this. Again, not legal advice, but sort of friendly tips. First one is before you sign a contract, have your lawyer look it over. At least review it. And of course, there's negotiation or changing things, but before you sign, have your lawyer review. It's a very easy kind of rule to follow. And we talked about in this podcast kind of some of the reasons why you want a music lawyer, not an entertainment lawyer, not a personal injury lawyer, a music lawyer who does these deals. Look at the contract, at least before you sign something, so you know what you're getting yourself into. And then, of course, if there's issues, you can walk away from the deal, we can negotiate it, etc. Second rule, before you pay people, have them sign a contract. You're paying somebody for some service, you should memorialize what the arrangement is, even if it's a simple contract, something, before you pay them. It's a lot harder after you pay somebody to go back and try to deal with the paperwork. It's just really clean and respectful and good business to sign paperwork and then pay somebody. It's not always easy to do either of these things, but they're really helpful to at least have some basic guidance for when you would need a music lawyer and why. And I like to kind of share those couple tips. If we can take away anything from this conversation, if you're like looking for a music lawyer or when would I need to call my lawyer, those two things will get you a long way in the music industry. I guess my third tip is don't burn bridges. Like relationships are really important and foster those relationships. Part of being a music lawyer is what you know. I gotta know copyright law, I gotta know contracts. It's also who you know as a music lawyer, and being able to connect dots and understand, the landscape of the industry and help my clients in that regard as well. So hopefully the listener can get some takeaways from this that are valuable, useful, fun, and yeah, I'm really, if there's people have follow-ups or questions or things, again, we've talked about before, Joanna, being accessible. So usually an email or a text is great, and all the contact info is on the website.
Awesome.
So it's usually the best way of getting at us is shooting over an email, and then we can sort it out from there. And this is really fun, Joanna.
Yes.
Having fun here. Podcasts are a huge thing these days.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Really fun. Happy to do this, and want to thank you for having me on here. Grateful to hopefully be entertaining and useful for your audience.
Oh, yes, you have been. Thank you so much, Jesse. And and I'll just have like a little closing thing that I've just started doing. Well, this is from my personal experience. I trust Jesse Morris. He is here to use the law to serve you so that you can serve people with your music. Thank you for tuning in to Pepe and Ybra.
Welcome to our surprise segment. Now it's time for a visit from Madam Pepe.
Welcome to Tarot Time. You can call to me, Madam Pepe, and I am in this place to show you the good fortunes of our guests. What I do, I summon the informations combined with cards so that you and our guests can receive learning. Okay, let's go. Okay, I'm going to shuffle. Now we have intuitions for Jesse Morris, the lawyer, the music lawyer. Okay, so let's see what we have. What's this? Wow, the judgment card. Oh, wow. Okay, so I know that might sound intimidating, but hear me out. Okay, what is this to mean? And well, for those who are just listening, well, what we see here is an angel type figure, okay, with a trumpet, sounding out the trumpet from the heavens, waking up the dead people who are in the tombs. They have risen from their tombs. This is very meaningful. Okay, so what this means is that these people were in bondage, and so also, the funny thing is, this actually does look like Jesse. Jesse plays the trumpet, and Jesse plays other instruments too, but work with me. Okay, so basically, he is awakening people from this bondage, and it reminds me of how in real life Jesse alleviates the worries of many of the artists, right? He acts as an intermediary between the artist and the law, and the creative mind and the logical mind. And so because artists, when it's time to do business, they can get stifled. When it's time to do taxes or do anything with publishing and copywriting, they can be anxious and hesitant. And that's where Jesse and his team steps in. So this is great. He actually is freeing people from their anxiety so that now they are free to create and make music. Okay, so I very much like this card for Jesse. Very little people have such skills and talent. So Jesse, if you're listening, keep doing what you're doing, and that you also make time for yourself and your own creative needs. Because when you're in touch with yourself and your artistry, you can keep communicating with the artists that you work with and that you're surrounded by. Okay, so very, very good. Also, another thing is that in this season, everyone has had their own voyage, and in a way, Jesse has his own voyage, but also is an overseer of many other voyages as well. Okay, that's it. I enjoy very much bringing good news and fortunes. Thank you for visiting, Madam Pepe. And okay, that's it. Very good. Bye now.
musiclawpro.com.
Now it's time for our after show. This is where my bandmate, Ybra, and I usually chat about the recent episode or any random happenings in our band. All right. Welcome to the Pepe and Ybra after show.
So another thing that I had told Joanne about Canada, because there's so many stories, is one time, okay, this particular member of my band, another guy, not because he couldn't, because he didn't want to, didn't really go for a lot of girls. He's straight, he liked girls, but he was just more interested in making money and playing, and nothing wrong with that, you know. And one day, I picked up on this real heavy girl, real big girl. And I always shared rooms with this particular person. And I went in the bathroom to kind of use the bathroom and wash up a little bit. And this person went in the bathroom with me, my roommate, and he goes, I want to be with her tonight. I said, what? He goes, I want to be with her tonight. I'm like shocked because, you know, this person never, ever said that. And, you know, to want to be with this girl, I was like, okay. I said, I don't have a problem with it. He goes, okay.
God, I love the exchange.
So we literally got out, and the girl's like, ooh. And I go, there's been a change of plans. It's exactly what I remember that.
Okay.
She goes, what do you mean? Well, I go, you're not going to be with me. You're going to be with him. Sam was better looking than me back then. I had my looks going on. You know, I did my thing, but this particular person was better looking, period. Taller, bigger, whatever. So anyway, the girl's like, okay, I don't care. You know, she's like,
yeah.
You know, all these guys want to be with me all of a sudden tonight. I'm down. And I think she even said, if both of you, and I'm like, no, it's okay. So should I say the rest of it? What happened?
Yeah, do it. Go all the way.
I got to be careful about what I say.
Let's record it and let's think about it. And then if you don't want it, we'll cut it out.
I don't think I should put that part in, because if that person sees it and doesn't like it.
Well, the thing is, that person is probably not going to listen to our podcast. So,
okay. So
I'm just being honest.
So I went into the room of another band member. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And this band member was kind of kinky dude. And I think he flowed every which way but loose. You know, it's like he had no boundaries on how he rode.
Yeah.
Which I don't really care. I never cared about any of that. But I had my broken shoulder. And he goes, you can lay in my bed till Sam gets through. And this was Willie that told me this.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I'm laying there. And it's taking forever. And all of a sudden, it really only took about 15 minutes. Willie, we'll call him Willy Wonka, strips down to little bikinis. He had a ding dong like a donkey.
Oh, jeez.
And he's dancing and going down and doing all this porno humping and shit. And I'm like, I go, hey, dude, don't get any ideas. I have a broken shoulder, but I will smack you in the tomorrow. And he's like, I'm just dancing. And I go like, yeah, dance all you want, but don't get any ideas. And he goes, okay. So he kept dancing. I couldn't make him stop. I guess he was thinking I'd be like, ooh, that looks good. And I'd be like, all right, I'm down. Fuck it, you know. But no, so I don't roll that way. So then anyway, so So Sam finally, knock, knock. Come in. He goes, Abe, I got to talk to you. I go, what do you mean you got to talk to me? He goes, I couldn't do anything. Go, you've been in there an hour. What have you been doing? Goes, well, I was licking her big tits and this and that. Because she had big melons. Big girl, big melons. He goes, but when I went to do it, I couldn't find her thing. I go, what do you mean you couldn't find her thing? He said her pussy's what he said, her vagina, whatever. I go, it's where every girl has it. He goes, but she had too much fat. I couldn't find it. I go, dude, you fucking pick it up and put your Willy Wonka on there and do your thing. Because I couldn't find it. I go, you know what? Get a flashlight or something and go in there, finish your business because I got to get out of here because Willy Wonka's doing porno dances for me and I want out of here already. But he had been really nice for me to leave the room, and I, not to brag, but I got down a lot, so poor guy would leave a lot for me. So I figured I owe him. I owe him this. Okay.
Yeah.
So finally, another hour goes by, and he's in there with a smile. He goes, I finally found it. Oh, good, let's go. And I'm out of here, and, Willy Wonka's all, bye. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for the visit. I'm like, holy shit.
Oh, well.
Anyway, so that's the other crazy funny story.
But we actually ran into Sam once at a party or something, and you told Sam that you told me the story about him and the big chick, and then and how he couldn't find the hole, and he was like, man, Abe, why'd you do that? I don't want her thinking I don't know how to do anything.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's we can say more later on, but there was a lot
there are more stories.
Funny things, man.
That's great.
Being that young and being away from home was really a trip.
Yeah.
A good experience though.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this much, I got broken in because when I lived here, I was very shy, and I think there was only one girl, I won't say her name, that I had been with, that I had done it with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who it was.
Yeah.
But when I went over there, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was on like Donkey Kong.
Oh God.
I hate to say this, but I probably got who knows how many babies out in Canada.
Okay, so when we publish this podcast and we broadcast it, you can find your long lost father in La Puente, California, and his name is Ibrahim Perez.
Was it my fault they didn't protect themselves?
Oh God, let's not even go there.
Well,
all right.
I was a young kid. I went to do my thing, not worry about anything else.
You can buy condoms too.
Doesn't feel the same.
Well, of course it doesn't. Anyways, so that about wraps it up for this episode or this after show of Pepe and Ybra. I am Pepe, aka Joanna Glass, and
Ybra, Abe Perez.
Yep. And we are the members of GLASSPIRITS, the two-piece rock band. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and choosing our podcast. It really means a lot to us. On our next episode, we're going to have a rebroadcast of all our after shows thus far, called the Aftershow Collection No. 1. It'll help those who are new to the podcast catch up and get to know Ybra, the other half of Pepe and Ybra. It'll be full of fun stories about our band GLASSPIRITS, as well as painful learning moments that we've had as musicians. Please rate and review our podcast. And if you want to keep our podcast Pepe and Ybra going or support our band GLASSPIRITS, please join our Patreon. For just $5, $3, or even $1 a month, you can help keep us afloat. Our band name, GLASSPIRITS, is one word, spelled GLASSPIRITS. The music you hear on this episode is our podcast theme song. It's an original song by our band GLASSPIRITS called Something Unspoken. You can now download Something Unspoken from all major retailers or stream it on Spotify. Now, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of our song, Something Unspoken. Again, Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time on Pepe and Ybra.